Hi, I'm Cram, and today we're taking a look at Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which after some hands-on time courtesy of Ubisoft in London recently, have mixed feelings of how this latest game will stack up compared to its predecessors, simply because it's a different kind of Assassin's Creed game. When the original Assassin's Creed released in 2007, it was heralded as a benchmark model for open-world action games, with its outstanding attention to detail and a lead protagonist that felt fresh, heroic and dark at the same time. Whilst not being universally acclaimed, the game's biggest problem was with leaving little to do outside of the story. Over the course of the series, Ubisoft has addressed this issue, enabling players to partake in all sorts of activities, which perhaps reached a momentous peak in the most recent game, Assassin's Creed 3, with its naval gameplay. There's so much crammed into the open world game that it's made the lead character become less mysterious and more jack of all trades. This has progressively taken form with each iteration of the game, losing the shadowy assassin type character the series started with. So now, in the latest game, we're presented with new character Edward Kenway, who looks more appealing to play, but is a far cry from the original assassins Altair and Ezio Auditore. Edward is a pirate, and one that is well known within the ranks of the pirating network. It's pirates versus the armies of the West, and somewhere in between all the plundering of ships, searching mysterious islands for treasure, and running around settlements and plantations, there's a bit of assassin thrown in there somewhere. Ubisoft were clear that this time, with the character, there's a defined contrast between Edward's alignment at the start of the game and the transformation towards the end. It appears that although Edward possesses the skills to maim and kill, much like his predecessor in Assassin's Creed 3, he's turned his back on the ways of the Order and has become his own element, free from any shackles of restrictive law. So although the starting character is far less clandestine than his forerunners, his premise and plight are interesting and an agreeable angle to interject into the series. In terms of gameplay, there's really little distinction between it and the last game, in that players familiar with the setup will be able to jump right in without hitch. The game design still purports an open flavour, nudging players at ease into its story progression and really leaving it up to the player to decide what to do. Naturally, there's much story to tell that interweaves with the gameplay, but with a new story arc complete with fresh faces offers a bit more enticement to enjoy the underlying elements which can largely be ignored if desired. There's a very relaxed nature to the game this time, what with its organic looks and the ease of pace from the open sea, more so than the American flavour of the previous game. What's interesting is how seamless the transition is from land to sea, and this is what makes up the core navigation gameplay. Rather than be stuck on one landmass, players can take to the seas and explore many islands dotted around the region, so you're using the ship quite often and having to pay attention to any opportunities en route. When on land, Edward can sneak, blend, bribe and use the services of others for distractions much like before. The stealth parkour element is still present, and yet in a similar manner to the recent Splinter Cell Blacklist, there's distinct player choices on offer in how objectives are tackled. When you do mess up and the alarm bells are raised, you can prevent these if you're quick, then Edward's combat skills with pistols, blades and swords returns to the familiar block and counter attacking game we've become accustomed to. The stealth itself is quite challenging, with many eyes on the player in the daylight sections, and so requires a bit more patience and planning. And if you do get into a scrap, then escape is as thrilling as it gets. The sea-based gameplay does take precedence though, and is a game in its own right, what with simply navigating the region, gathering loot and exploring forgotten islands to fighting other ships. There's much to do here, and although making sense with the pirating theme, is a very overt way of presenting the lead character within this historic period of fact and seafaring tales. So the idea of marrying the two gameplay elements into one does work, but really settles back the pacing of the game. On board the ship there's an open element of exploration, made easy with tight controls. There's action thrown in on several levels as ship's cannons rip towards weak points targeted and then jumping aboard the burning remains to take on the last of the fighting crew. But within moments, players can be blissfully riding the glorious looking waves and anchoring on a nearby island, hunting iguana and undertaking challenges in the process. Aside from running well and consistently on the PS4 hardware and looking much sharper than its current gen offering, the game itself is a tour de force reenactment of a boisterous time in our history. Larger than life characters, the open waves, and the core basic element of the series make this easy to play and overflowing with content that remains in context of the pirating theme. Assassin's Creed 4 feels like a different game, almost to the extent of making the assassin part less relevant, and in this regard is fresh at the expense of following the trend of the previous games have set and have evolved into. The Caribbean looks to set off for hours of action and adventure, overflowing with character and opportunity for gamers when the game releases on November the 1st, 2013. Stay tuned for our full Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag review. I'm Rob Cram, thanks for watching.